Hey, welcome to the next interview with a pro, part of the Imagine What box, world building in a box. Every month we bring you different professionals from different industries, and I wanted to do something a little bit different this month. Now, in the past, we've talked to like people who say they make magic, like in the theme parks, like a theme park writer. But I wanted to bring in someone who literally makes magic, and that is somebody I've known for quite a long time. Really impressive resume. I think you guys are really going to enjoy listening to him. He's been on Penn and Teller's Fool Us, America's Got Talent, but most importantly, the world famous Jungle Cruise at Disneyland, which is where I met him. So we go way back to the days we're both wearing khaki in the tropical rivers of the world, in the 110-degree humid heat, telling jokes that very few people appreciate. But without further ado, I want to bring in Michael O'Brien, professional magician. Welcome to Imagine What, Mike.
Hey, Kevin, thanks so much for having me, man. This has been a blast. The viewers won't know this, but we spent a good at least 45 minutes catching up before this. And it's been too long, man. I really, really appreciate you reaching out and having me on. I'm really looking forward to sharing a little bit about myself, what it is that I do. And maybe if you guys stay tuned in, I'll do a little bit of magic for you too.
Fantastic. Could we get Mike O'Brien 101, the elevator pitch, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and then we could really start, talking about the world of magic.
Yeah, so I'm a professional magician. I'm based out of Orange County in Los Angeles. I grew up in Bellflower, California, and when I was in high school, is really when my interest for magic started to peak. I met a magician in Hollywood that did some amazing stuff on Hollywood Boulevard, and that was my first exposure to ever seeing a real, actual magician performing. Up until then, my experience with magic was like little parlor tricks, things that you can buy at the magic shop, stuff like that. And so he performed. I loved it, and I asked him about how can I learn how to do this. And he said, "Well, here, I'll tell you what. You stand over here. I'm going to gather another crowd, and you can kind of see what I'm doing. But I'm going to show you what I'm doing as I'm performing it for them." So he would perform for them. He had the card hidden in his hand. He'd like show me behind his back and all this stuff. And afterwards, we chatted, and he gave me some advice. And I decided, you know what? I think this is something that I could do professionally or not professionally, but like to take more seriously. It's something I can actually do, perform magic for people. So I started getting really serious into performing magic, and my first job out of high school was working at a little kiosk in downtown Disney selling magic tricks. It's a company called Houdini Magic. We sold the little flying card and special card tricks and tricks that make coins change from nickels to dimes and all this stuff. So that's sort of how my professional career in magic started, was selling magic tricks at this little kiosk. About a year later, I needed a new job, right? Because the job that I was having, I wasn't getting the hours, I wasn't paying very well. So I was like, you know what? I'm already here at Disneyland. I might as well apply for a gig inside the park. And I got hired in Adventureland Frontierland Attractions, where I met you, Kevin. Started working at Indy, and then I learned Jungle Cruise, Big Thunder Mountain, and then I was on the railroad. So I did that for about 8 years. Well, in the middle of all of that time, I was building up my magic chops. And Kevin, you probably know this. You've seen me backstage. I'm practicing my card tricks and stuff in that little mirror in the back by boat
Mm-hmm.
storage, right? And of course, a lot of my early test subjects were performing for fellow cast members like yourself. So I was building up my chops, going out, performing magic at parties and things like this. And I really decided it was 2010. And I was like, I think this is what I want to do professionally. I can definitely go out. I could start doing this professionally. So as my professional career started to build and build, I started to step back and back and back a little bit from my day job. Eventually, I left Disney in 2016 to pursue being a working professional full time, and I've been pretty much doing magic full time ever since then. In 2019, just before the pandemic, I picked up a very part time position at the Disneyland Magic Shop, so you guys can actually come and see me there now. If you're visiting the Disneyland Park in Anaheim, stop by the Magic Shop, come say hi, come see some cool magic tricks. And let me know if you saw me here. I'd love to hear that you guys are enjoying the podcast. But otherwise, yeah, you guys can come into the magic shop. A lot of people didn't even know that there is a magic shop at Disney. And it's actually where a famous actor, comedian, and banjo player Steve Martin started his career. So it's a pretty cool little place. It's full of history and all of that good stuff. Um, and so fast forward to now, I'm out. I'm still performing magic. I'm performing magic for private events. I perform magic at this really cool private clubhouse in Hollywood called the Magic Castle. Don't know if you've ever heard of that. And I actually teach magic courses at the Magic Castle as well. So one of my titles, other than magician, is Professor of Magic at the Academy of Magical Arts. Sounds like sort of a Hogwarts thing, right? Really, really, really cool. Yeah, I absolutely love what I do. I come up with some of my own magic ideas. I teach them to other magicians. I sell magic products on my own website and all of that stuff. And I run my own YouTube channel as well. So this is me, O'Brien Magic there. Yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell. I tried to cram as much stuff in there as I could, but that's in a nutshell essentially what I do. So full-time working professional magician, which some people ask me, well, what does that even mean? Like, what's a professional magician? Like, what is a working pro magician? Believe it or not, you can hire magicians to come to your event and perform, right? So, do I show up and pull a rabbit out of my hat? Not necessarily, right? But I do some some fun, interactive sleight of hand magic. I can do magic with cards, coins, tricks with like little red balls. I can link rings together, tricks with money, right? Even tricks with a Rubik's cube. So like all kinds of like little fun stuff like that. Um, my clients are typically like I perform at weddings. I do corporate events where companies will hire me, or even show up in your backyard and perform magic for your family. So my range of the different types of audiences, things that I perform for, it's been as big as like 3,000-4,000 people in an arena, people that are sat down in chairs and I'm up on a stage, all the way to I had done a Valentine's Day for just two people. Just the guy was like, I'm gonna do this special thing for my girlfriend on Valentine's Day, and he hired me to just do a little 15-minute tableside little thing for them. Very romantic evening, and then I left, and then their food dropped, and then they had a romantic dinner. So like I've
I was
performed
saying it
for.
got more romantic when you left.
That's it. That's exactly right. I mean, I don't know. I am Magic Mike, so you
Yeah, that's
never
right.
know, right? But yeah, so in a nutshell, that's basically what I do. Is I magish people for a living, and I teach other people how to magish people. So that's me.
That's awesome. Uh, I want to start like super basic. So, what is your definition of magic?
That's a really good question. And my thoughts on magic have kind of changed over the years, and mostly working at Disney. And what do I mean by that? So for me, magic is anything that immerses you in this experience of something that I don't want to say impossible necessarily, but it gives you this feeling of like a just childlike sense of wonder, right? So for the perfect example, we'll use Disneyland. I'm sure we're going to probably use Disneyland as an example in a lot of these things, just because this is how we know each other. But like when you're at Disneyland, there's you've heard of Disney Magic. Well, what is Disney Magic? This is when you can make someone feel like they are truly immersed in this experience. They're not riding on a roller coaster at Disneyland, right? They are in the middle of 1930s India going through this temple and exploring, and they are Indiana Jones, right? It's not like, oh, we're just here like at this like park riding this ride. Like no, you get to be Indiana Jones. You get to be like a astronaut. You get to be in the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like there's all these kinds of really cool things that you get to experience, and for me that's magic. Now when it comes to what I do, I do these things for people that happen right in front of their eyes, right in their own hands, that they can't explain. And it brings them back to this time in their life where they couldn't explain how the world worked. And that's what made it fun, right? It's like these days you have bills to worry about, politics, making sure that, there's food on the table and a roof over your head. And you have to worry, going to work, all this stuff. You have to worry about all of these things. Whereas when you're a kid, You know, it's just you walk outside and you look around and you see all the like fun things happening around you, and like you're like listening to the birds or like whatever you're doing, right? And for me, that's magic. I get to take people back and they get to experience that again. So it's pretty cool stuff.
That's great because what you just described is an escape. It's an escape from reality, and that's
Hmm.
what world building at its core is all about. So, we talk about world building traditionally. It's like, what is the history of this location in this story, or in this theme park, or in this video game? Who are the characters? What are their cultural norms? Do animals talk? It's because you're creating a new place for people to escape their realities. And so what you're doing is you're doing a zoomed in version of that, and you're bringing your reality to them. You're showing them that the impossible is possible, the improbable is probable. And so it's, rather than sending somebody into a world we built, you're welcoming people in. You're bringing it to them, which I think is fantastic. Could you talk a little bit about the importance of storytelling when you're putting together a routine or a trick or just interacting with people?
Yeah, of course. So if there's no story, there's nothing. And that's something that I stress to my students all the time. Uh, when it comes to magic, it's basically you're just telling a story, is what magic really is. And then the trick that you do is the tool that you use to give a sort of visual aid to the story that you're trying to tell, right? So, for example, we'll jump right into a little bit of magic for you guys. Um, can anyone tell me what this is? Kevin, you know what one of these things is?
That's a Rubik's cube.
Very good, very good. And a Rubik's Cube is a type of puzzle, right? Now, oftentimes when people find out that I'm a magician, the first thing that they ask me is, "Oh, so you're going to perform for me, and I'm going to try to see if I can figure out how you did your trick," right? And really, for me, it's not really about trying to figure out the trick, right? It isn't a puzzle to be solved. I already kind of touched on this a little bit, but magic to me is about the mystery aspect of it, right? Seeing something impossible happen right before your eyes and being like, wow, this is like an amazing, like I feel like a kid again, right? Like how does that even happen? I can't explain that, right? It's not a puzzle, right? The person that is trying to solve the puzzle, for example, they are watching me twist the cube. They're looking for a pattern. Like, right, when you see these white tiles here,
Mhm.
they might think, like, oh, if he wants to solve the cube, all he has to do is start lining up the tiles just like this, right? If he keeps twisting the cube enough, right, maybe he might be able to get all of the tiles to assemble on one side of the cube. Now, of course, the rest of the cube is still shuffled. I haven't solved the cube fully yet. And someone that's following along would never believe me if I told you, yeah, this is only just 2 moves away from being solved. Would you believe me, Kevin, if I told you this is 2 moves away?
No, I would say you probably have another couple months worth of work.
Right? And normally, I'll be honest with you, I'm not very good at solving a Rubik's Cube. But in this case, I'm going to try to solve this in wait, no, in 2 moves. You ready? One, two.
That's fantastic.
Now, again, that's not magic. That's a trick. That's a puzzle, something to try to figure out, something to try to solve, right? If I was really doing magic, I would not even ever have to twist the cube like this. Because if I was a magic, or if I was doing magic, if I was a real magician, you could just know that it's just in your mind already. And that the cube is already solved. But for
Wow.
me, that's the importance of storytelling. It's not about, because if I just came out with a Rubik's Cube and I just shuffled it and threw it in the air and it was solved, that might be cool.
Mhm.
But why? Why am I doing that other than to just show off that I can? For me, the whole thing is, what is the story that I want to tell? And then what's the visual aid that I'm going to use to tell it? In this case, the story is magic is not a puzzle to be solved. It's something that you can experience, right? And I love the word that you used. You said it was an escape from reality. I absolutely love that because it allows you to immerse yourself in this story, right? And so solving the Rubik's Cube in fun, magical ways is cool, but the meaning behind it is the story that you tell and everything. So that it is very, very important when you're coming up with a magic trick. You don't want to just do the trick. right? You want to have a reason for doing the trick. What is the story, right? What is the story that you're trying to tell? It's like a stand-up comedian. They use jokes to tell a story. I use magic to tell a story.
That's a great comp right there. And even as you're talking, you find yourself like leaning in closer and closer because you're just being pulled into this story. You know, that's a great example. Um, so when talking about the world of magic, you've already jumped in and you wear so many hats. Though really you only wear one hat. That's your signature hat you're wearing right now.
I've worn a
But
few
like,
hats
what
over
are
the years.
over the years? Uh, what are some of the other roles within the magic industry that, so say somebody is like, well, I don't know if I could ever learn that, but I'm really good at XYZ. What are other things? I know nothing about the magic industry. Like what goes into it? Like what are some of the other roles that you might find at like a magic maker convention, if that's a thing?
Yeah. Actually, believe it or not, we do have conventions. In fact, we're going to have one of the world's largest conventions for magic. This is akin to like a San Diego Comic Con for that sort of world, but for magic, and it takes place in Blackpool, England, every year. So I'm actually going to be
Huh.
going out there in February, going out to the United Kingdom. It's gonna be so much fun to hang out with some of my friends that I've made over the years through magic. But ultimately, we're all going to this convention, and one of the things that I do there is I have my own like little dealer stand. Like I'm sure you've been to like a convention. There's like a whole room where there's just people selling all their products and merchandise and all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
Essentially,
that's
I
yeah,
it's most people's
that's
favorite part of
usually
the
me.
convention,
I'm
right?
usually there selling my artwork or selling
Oh,
Imagine
there you
What.
go.
So
Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
you know. So, so I have my own little stand and I'll be selling magic. Last year I was fortunate enough to actually lecture at the convention. So, they had me in front of a room. I think there's like 300, 400 magicians in this little room. And I said little room. It's the Winter Gardens is the venue. It's massive.
Oh
But
yeah.
uh, I had like 300 magicians in this room that paid money to come listen to me talk for an hour. Right. So, very, very interesting experience for sure. But when you say the different roles, so as a magician, me personally, I already take on like 4 or 5 roles, right? I'm a performer, so I go out, people hire me to perform for them. I'm a
Mhm.
creator. Oh, there's my thumbs up. I'm a creator. I come up with some of my own ideas. I'm a product designer. So not only do I come up with the ideas, but I figure out ways to package them and sell them so that other people can learn how to perform the tricks that I've come up with. I'm a content creator, right? So I have a YouTube channel. I do appearances like this, like on your show, right? And I'm a teacher, so I teach other people how to be, how to be magicians. I have an online course that I teach where people could sign up. They could learn how to take their magic career to the next level. I also teach magic at the Magic Castle, like I mentioned, where people just in their everyday life, business people that want to learn a little trick that they can like show to their clients to break the ice when they're going to go into a business meeting, or grandparents that want to be that cool grandpa when the grandkids come over, they can pull a quarter out of their ear or whatever, right? So that's just me personally. And then within the magic realm, there's all these different roles as well, right? There's a lot of magic adjacent stuff, and I like to think of magic as sort of this umbrella with all of these like little things underneath it, right? Like you have mentalism, that's magic of the mind reading, impossible predictions, things like this. You have hypnotism, right? Where you can put someone in a hypnotic state, make them do some silly stuff like bark like a dog or whatever, right? You have an illusionist. So a lot of people get magic and illusionist kind of confused. They think those two terms are interchangeable, but actually, an illusionist is a very specific type of magician. This is going to be the magician usually that performs on stage. They're going to saw
Ugh.
someone in half. They're going to put them in this box and then like take the box apart, and like their heads over there, their feet are over there, their torsos over there, right? They're going to do tricks where I'm sure you've seen like woman being sawed in half is probably the most popular one. But there's ones where like the magician has this giant drill bit that just goes right through their stomach, and they're like pierced on this drill, and it's like spinning them around, like all kinds of cool stuff like that. That would be an illusionist, right?
Okay.
And then you have an escape artist, an escapologist, right? Escapologist, I think that's what they're called, uh, in a straitjacket, or maybe they're tied up, put inside of a box. That box is then locked up, hung from a crane 400 feet in the air, and then dropped into the ocean, right? Harry Houdini was a very
Yeah.
famous escape artist. That was what he was known for. He was a magician as well. He did close up magic, he did stunts, all this stuff, but escaping was the thing that made him very famous. Um, and so there's all these different types of magician that you could be. The category that I fall into, my main category is close-up magician. So what that means is typically I won't perform on stage. I'm very interactive. I'll show up at an event and I'll mix and mingle with people. I'll just be at the party, like as one of the guests almost. And I'll approach a group of people. I'll be like, "Hi, my name is Michael. I'm actually the magician this evening. You guys want to see something fantastic? I'm about to blow your mind." And then boom, I go into my magic act. And my magic act is like for like 5 or 6 people, and it happens in your hands. It's like right there in front of you, right? So typically that's what I do as a close-up magician. And then I also, for like my big shows, because I can't do close-up magic on stage with like, 300 people in the theater. So I do
Yeah.
stage mentalism as well. So those are the types of magic umbrella I fall under personally. But even aside from that, there's so many other, types of magic adjacent stuff. There's gambling demonstrations where magicians show you how a gambler might cheat at cards, right? There's cardistry, right? Cardistry is sort of juggling, but with playing cards,
Okay.
right? I'm
Hmm.
sure you've seen this before. Doing some
Yeah.
amazing.
I'm losing. I'm learning vocabulary words right now.
There
This is
you go. There
fantastic.
you go. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is, and a lot of people don't know this. People just think like, there's this meme that goes around in the magic world, and it's like all the things that I'm listing, and it's like the professional sees, all of these things, and then you have the layman, the lay person, the muggle, so to speak, on this side, and it's magic trick. It's like all the same. It's like all of the same thing. So it's very interesting. Like if you don't know, like yeah, magic. I mean, you're right. It's all magic, but it's all, each individual genre has its own subcategory. And the cool thing is, I'm gonna go to this big convention, and I'm gonna meet and see so many people that fit into all these different categories. And it's so interesting talking to different people from different worlds, right? Like one of my
Mm.
good friends, he Irish magician. He's known as the Houdini of Ireland. That's like what he does is he does all of the escapes, and he does like all this sort of stuff that Houdini used to do. That's sort of like his thing. So like you can have someone come up on stage, he'll put his hands like this, he'll tie rope around him, and they'll tie him in like 20,000 knots like all over his body, and they'll cover him with the sheet, and in 5 seconds he takes the sheet off and he's out of the rope, right? So like some insane stuff like that. Um, and so it's a really interesting world. Once you start peeling back the layers one at a time, you can start to see all the different things that actually go into being a magician.
Oh, that's fantastic. I never. I always just kind of put under even the the difference between stage and close up. I'm like, oh yeah, magician, like that's a thing.
Mhm.
But knowing that there's all these subcategories, that's fascinating. Now you also create tricks. Could you talk about the process of creating a new trick that you would use in your act?
Yeah. So for me, anytime I'm going to create a new piece of magic, I've never created a piece of magic by sitting down and being like, what magic trick am I going to create today? It just never has really worked for me like that. Are there creators that can do that? Yes. There are creators that they just sit down and they just think about it for a few minutes and they have like a brilliant idea and they're able to just workshop it and bring it to life. I'm not that guy. For
Okay.
me, what I do instead is I usually create something for myself that solves a problem, and then if I think other magicians will enjoy it, then I package it, put it together, and I sell it to them. Right. So here's an example. Um, there was a time in my career when I was doing a lot of magic for children's birthday parties. Now, I'm by no means a children's birthday magician, which, by the way, another category of magic. I'm by no means a children's birthday magician, um, but I was getting booked for a lot of these children's birthday parties. I'm talking like 7, 8-year-old kids in the backyard. They got a bouncy house, they got a table with pizza on it, like that whole thing. And
Mm.
so I was doing like card tricks and whatnot. And it got to a point where I was like, okay, the kids are having fun because I'm being fun with them, but are they truly understanding what's happening? Yeah, they're having fun, but like for example, here we'll take out a speaking of Disneyland, got my Mickey Mouse playing cards here, right? So I could take this deck of cards, and yeah, it's fun because they're like Mickey Mouse cards, right? But if I were to show you, like if I were to show a 7-year-old kid this card, do you think that they're going to know what this is?
Right.
I'll be
Probably
100%
not.
honest with you. Most adults don't know what this is. Playing cards, even these days, are not as popular as they once were. Um, Usually, I'll hold that up to someone, and they'll call this either the nine of spades, which it's not, or they'll call it the nine of clovers,
Yeah, I was going
or
to say
I've heard
clovers or Lucky
puppy
Charms. Yeah.
foot. Right, puppy
Puppy
foot's a
foot.
popular one, right? The nine of clubs is what this card is called, and not saying that there's anything wrong with not knowing. Again, it's just not very popular. But now take this a step further and show this to like a 7-year-old kid who's probably never even seen a deck of cards before.
Hmm.
They're not going to know what that is. So for me to be like, look, I'm going to take this card, right? So let's just say the 10 of diamonds. I'm going to take this card, right? I'm going to place it right here into the deck. Let me try to do this so you can see on the camera. I'm going to place this right here into the deck, just like this, right? And then if I take my hand and reach into my pocket, I could pull the card right out of my pocket, right? And they might think, oh, wow, that's kind of cool because they saw the card going, from the deck into my pocket. But are they truly understanding what's happening? And that was a hurdle that I was trying to overcome. So I thought, how can I deal with this? How can I make sure that I can perform card magic? Because I wasn't about to try to start learning like a whole new series of magic tricks, right? So I thought to myself, let me make sure I have this ready to go here. If I was more professional, I would have had this prepared before. Um, I thought to myself, how could I do the same magic that I'm already doing, but bring it to an audience of kids? So I thought, instead of making a card from a regular deck of cards appear in my pocket, why not make it appear in my pocket from a deck of Pokemon cards,
Smart.
right? Kids love
Very
Pokemon
smart.
cards. And so it's sort of the same idea. It's like we can have a random Pokemon chosen this time. And in this case, I could show them, like, I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not. That's EV there.
Okay.
Actually one of my favorite characters from the Pokemon game, right? And Eevee gets placed back into the deck just like this, right? And rather than the magic word being like abracadabra or whatever, I get all of the kids to say, Eevee, I choose you. That's the magic word, right?
Mm.
And Eevee will vanish from the deck of cards, right? And jump into my pocket. And why does that happen? Because Pokemon are pocket monsters. That's what Pokemon stands for,
Aha.
right? And so I thought to myself, like, how could I just make this more friendly for kids? And honestly, all it took was for me to just change the story. I didn't have to change the handling. I didn't have to change what I did from a technical standpoint at all. It was pretty much the exact same thing. I was using cards, the same exact object. They're even the same size, but it's not an ace of clubs or a two of spades or a three of diamonds or a four of hearts. It's Pikachu. It's Eevee. It's Charizard. It's characters that the kids are already familiar with, right? And so it makes more sense to them. They get really excited about it. I take out the deck of Pokemon cards and the kids go crazy. The birthday boy, I did this
It
once, and the
clicks right
birthday
away.
boy, right off the bat, the birthday boy was like, hold up, I'll be right back. And he ran into the house. And I'm just here like waiting, like, okay, what's going on? He came back out with his big old binder of Pokemon cards he wanted to trade with me. Right. So it's just right off the bat, it was already fun. If I say, hey, let's try something with these, the kids are looking at me like, what the heck is that? But if I say,
Yeah.
hey, let's try something with these, oh, Pokemon card, and they're already excited. Right. So for me, when it comes time to create something, again, it's not for me to just like, well, I want to put out a new product. I usually solve some kind of problem that I have, and then if I think other magicians can benefit from it, I put it on the market, I sell it, package it up, make a video that teaches them how to use it, all that good stuff. And That's what I do as a magic creator.
That's a wonderful lesson in knowing your audience and adapting to your audience, which unfortunately I think a lot of creatives are hesitant to do. It's stepping outside of their comfort zone, but you recognize the problem and you solve for it. And it's a genius approach, especially bringing in a younger generation, making it more accessible to them. Because at the end of the day, playing cards, just in general, I don't know how popular it's going to keep going. But Pokemon cards, I mean, you even have a baked in audience from the kids who were playing with them 20 years ago. So
And
you can then
I
carry that over to a
I was gonna
college
bring that
audience.
up. I was gonna
Yeah.
say the same thing. It's like it's for kids, but and that's my initial idea was like, this will be for the kids. The kids will love it. And then I'm looking up and the parents are reacting and you see the excitement that the parents have because now the nostalgia factor is kicking in. They're like, this is from my childhood. And so it's like a generational thing. Like one of my proud moments as a parent is my daughter. She's actually about to turn 8. Holy crap. I always say she just turned 7. She turned 7 in April. She's about to be 8 now. She just really got into Pokemon. So she was showing me on a YouTube video this video of this guy showing you how to hack your Pokemon game. And essentially, for those of you who know, the missing no glitch was what she was looking at, and she was explaining this all to me like, wow, that's really cool, honey. That's really interesting. Here, maybe I could try it on my game. So I dig out my Game Boy Color with my original Pokemon game in it, and I do the glitch. And she was like, "What? It actually works!" And this and that. And she was like freaking out about it, right? And it's fun because it's like, dude, I had this game when I was her age
Yeah.
and now she's how old I was back then, right? And she's getting super into the stuff that I was into as a kid. So yeah, so it kind of kills two birds with one stone. It's like it's for the kids, but then the adults love it as well because it's got that nostalgia factor built into it.
Well, now you're going to have to start transitioning over to the Disney Lorcana cards. You'll have to do a
You're
whole
not the
set
first
for.
person to tell me that. I actually really like. This is gonna sound stupid. I actually really like the feel of the Lorcana cards. They're printed on really good card stock. They're not printed like Pokemon cards. As much as I love playing with Pokemon cards, these are such bad cards to do Magic with because they don't handle very well. They're kind of like I don't want to say cheap cardboard isn't the right word, but like they're just not printed on the same kind of stock as like a playing card is. Playing
Mm.
cards are designed to glide. These sort of like they're clunky, they stick together. The Lorcana cards are actually printed on some really nice card stock, and so I haven't put anything together yet, but I'm probably gonna put some kind of magic trick together using the Lorcana cards because it just makes sense. And Like I said, you're not the first person that's told
Oh
me,
yeah,
why
I'm
aren't you
I'm
doing
sure.
Lorcana stuff? It's so like,
Yeah.
and that game exploded.
I got another question for you. There's always I don't know if you're reluctant to talk about this, that's fine. But everyone always loves talking about their accomplishments and all the times everything went great. Do you ever have something that would end up on a blooper reel that you want to talk about? Just sometime where something just did not work out during a performance.
Yeah, so I'll tell two stories. The first one isn't really a specific story; it's more of a generalization. But when a magic trick goes wrong, I'll be honest, it happens all the time. Um, if you ever see me performing a trick and it gets all the way through and everything looked perfect, there is a chance that somewhere in the trick, maybe even like some minor thing didn't go right. It's all about how, as a performer, you react to that. For me, there's a very big phrase that we use in the magic industry called "fake it till you make it," right? And Basically, in magic world, what that means is the audience doesn't know you screwed up unless you tell them that you screwed up, right? If they don't know that you screwed up, don't act like you screwed up. Act like it's part of the act, right? Oh man, I couldn't find your card. What card did you have? And in reality, I'm like, crap, I don't know what their card is. Like, I can't find it. Like, what card did you have? And they're like, the seven of spades. And you're just like, that's interesting. It's actually not in the deck because the seven of spades is right behind your ear, right? Or something like that. And you make it feel like it was meant to be like a bit. But in reality, I'm just like, crap, I don't know what your card is. That happens. I mean, as a professional, you want to mitigate that as much as possible. So I'll never go out into a real working situation performing a piece of magic that I haven't rehearsed like 100 times already. But I mean, things go wrong. It's just something that happens. It's just part of it. And then the other part of it, and you guys can go watch this if you want because it's on video. Um, so there's these like different TV shows that are out there. They're like prank oriented where you go into the show, some kind of crazy prank happens, and then after they like point at the camera and they're like, "Oh, you're on TV or whatever it is, candid camera or punked," or I'm dating myself because I don't know what the new shows are.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but you're on this TV show, and then you're sitting there at home watching. And you're like, these people are so stupid. How can they fall for this, right? So, um, America's Got Talent. This was, I want to say 2017, maybe 2016 ish. It's around that time frame. And I was auditioning for the show. So I show up on the day and I pre-auditioned, which meant that I got to skip like the massive queue that was building outside. It was like an 8 hour like line just outside the door. I got to skip that and go inside, which was still like a 4 or 5 hour experience for me. But basically I was inside, and they pulled me aside and they were like, "Hey, are you just performing by yourself or are you a group act? Because if you're just by yourself, we're trying to think like single rider. We're trying to get as many of the individual acts processed as possible so that we can get you guys through. Are you ready to go now? Do you want me to go ahead and put you through?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Okay, cool. All we need you to do is just go over to this table over here and we need you to just fill out your paperwork real quick. Basically, just a sign of a release so that you can be on camera and all of that stuff, and then we're just going to go ahead and put you through to the next room where the producers are." And so I'm like, okay, cool. So I go to this table and there's this woman that's there, and she's a little weird, right? And I'm like, okay, like whatever, it's Los Angeles, like I'm not going to judge anybody, but she's acting kind of weird. And so she has me filling out this form, and then at one point she starts explaining to me about this new camera technology that they're working on, where basically it zooms into your face and it identifies your fingerprints on your face so that it can sync you up with your account so that the camera knows which contestant it is that it's looking at. And for me to do that, what I have to do is I have to just dip my fingers in this like ink and put it on my face, and it will disappear over time so it's invisible for me, but the camera can still see it. And so I'm just like going along with this. She has me do this, put this ink on my face, right? And she's explaining this to me, and I go through the whole process of filling out the paperwork and everything. And then I'm done at that table. And then the one of the producers comes over and he's like, "Okay, let's go ahead and get your paperwork signed out now so we can have you sign your release so that you could be on TV." And I'm like, "Didn't I just do that?" And they're like, "No, that was the TV segment. That was Howie Mandel." I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me. Like, seriously, that was Howie Mandel." And I do like one of these where I'm looking around the corner now and he's doing it to the next person. I'm like, "Oh my God, that was Howie Mandel." Like, I never in a million years thought that I would fall for one of those stupid things. And then hook, line, and sinker, I fell for it. If you guys want to watch it, the America's Got Talent segment, it's available on their official website, but I also stole the clip and I threw it on my YouTube channel too. So if you guys want to find it, if you just type in like Howie Mandel pranks Michael O'Brien or something like that, I don't remember what I titled it. You'll be able to find it. Um, but yeah, that's probably one of my most embarrassing um, moments, was realizing like as a professional, I fool people for a living, and I tell myself every day I would never fall for that, and then I fell for it.
They brought you into their reality, and you were in there. That's it's funny. You're actually the second America's Got Talent person I've interviewed for Imagine What. If people want to go back, we did a free interview that we dropped last fall with my buddy George the Giant, who has a oddities and curiosities museum. that he pops up different places. But he's on there. He's a sideshow performer. But
Oh, cool.
I don't think you've ever turned yourself into a human pinata like George has. So
It's funny
you're
that you mentioned that. That's another genre of magic. I would probably put him, depending on what he does, in the category magic. Magicians call it geek magic, like GEEK, geek magic.
yep,
Razor blade swallowing, hammering a
yep,
nose into your head,
yep,
um, all kinds of stuff. I have a buddy that does it. He has these giant fish hooks or meat hooks or whatever they are. He sticks them in his eye sockets and he
yep.
swings paint cans from it. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
George does that, and he actually has
yep.
a painting of that done in human blood. So
Yeah, so he's
yeah,
magic adjacent as well. He falls under the same kind of umbrella. That's pretty cool.
fantastic. So it's been awesome having you here. I always like to kind of end up with two questions at the end. The first being for any youngsters, anyone who hasn't decided what they want to do with their life, but after listening to this and was like, you know, maybe magic is something I should look into. What advice do you have for the youth wanting to look into this world?
Yeah, so have your parents take you to Target, Walmart, any store, and just go to the aisle that sells either toys or like board games and stuff. Chances are 9 times out of 10 there's going to be some sort of magic kit there. If you've never done magic before, the really cool thing about buying a magic kit is it's sort of like a sampler platter. You get a bunch of really easy little tricks that you can learn, and what that's going to do is that's going to allow you an entry point into being able to perform a quick and easy trick for someone without spending like years to learn how to do it. You just practice for maybe like about an hour or so, and you'll be able to go out and you'll be able to perform it for people. And my biggest piece of advice, and this isn't just for the youngsters, this is for anyone that wants to learn magic, is you need to go out and practice by performing for people. If you practice at home in front of a mirror and you do the trick 1,000 times and then you put the trick away and that's the end of it, you didn't really ever get a chance to go out and perform it or share it with anybody. So, number one, magic is meant to be shared with other people, right? Because they're experiencing the magic through you and the story that you're telling. But also, you're not getting that flight time, right? I guess is the easiest way to describe it. For me, when I'm practicing a trick, I know that I got to practice like what my hands are going to do, and I got to practice the words that I'm going to say, right? And then you got to combine those things together. But it's not until I go out into the real world that I realize that there is a third component to this, and that is the spectator. How are they going to react? How are they going to receive the trick? Are they going to heckle you? Are they going to see the secret, right? Are they going to every 2 seconds be bugging you about, well, let me see this, let me see that, let me see that, right? You have to take all of these things into account, but you're never really going to understand unless you go out and perform for somebody. So my advice, buy a magic kit, start learning the tricks in that kit, perform for mom, perform for brothers and sisters, perform for grandma and grandpa, perform for dad, perform for whoever you want to perform for in your house, and then actually go outside of your house and perform for other people too, right? Because it's going to allow you to build up your performance chops, so that you feel confident, so that you're not like, can you pick a card for me, right? And you're like so nervous that you're trying to perform for them, right? And then once you've done that and you're ready to start branching out, there are magic companies that produce magic tricks. So if you just Google, magic tricks for sale online or something like that, a whole bunch of different magic companies are going to pop up, and you can actually go and you can look at their inventory and you can start picking out tricks that you like, that you think might be cool. You buy them and they'll mail you a physical product that comes with all of the tools that you need, the instructions, and all of that stuff to teach you how to do the trick, right? um, you can go to o'brienmagic.com too if you want. You can check that out. I sell some products as well. Just saying. Um, and so that's what I would recommend. Now, also, YouTube is a really good resource. Go on YouTube and type in magic trick tutorial or card trick tutorial or how to make a quarter disappear or something like that. You go on YouTube. And YouTube's a nice resource for someone that's just getting started. You can find all kinds of videos where people can teach you really easy to do tricks that you can practice and go out and you can show your friends too. So that's my advice for anyone that's wanting to get started in magic. And also, it's never too late. You could be 7, you could be
Mhm.
70. It doesn't matter. It's never too late to start learning magic.
Well, that is the actually perfect segue to my next question, which is any other creatives out in the world, painters, writers, theme park designers, video game designers, anyone in the creative realm, right? What would be a benefit to them? Like I remember our boss when I was at Imagineering, we did an outing and we did a workshop with the groundlings. So it was like an improv workshop. It helps people with public speaking and working together with a group, and so that's a thing. But as far as
Hmm.
using magic for personal development, like, are there any benefits that any professional, any creative could glean just by learning a magic trick or two?
Yeah. So, icebreakers. Magic is an amazing icebreaker. Got another little story for you. I was actually hired by Disney to go to their Glendale location, and they had me perform. Actually, I think it was Alexis that got my name in their ear. You know who Alexis is. She was a Jungle Cruise skipper. I don't know if I want to use her last name because I don't have permission obviously from her to put her name on the internet. But you would know who I was talking about as soon as I told you her last name. I
Okay.
want to say she was working there at the time, and they were looking for a magician for a very specific situation, and she floated my name, and they got in contact with me, and they hired me. But what ended up happening was they hired me, and they were like, we don't want you to come in as a magician. We want you to come in as a cast member from management that is going to do a meeting, and we want you to use magic as an icebreaker. And then when they find out that you're really a magician, just be like, the meeting is this like magic show for you guys, and it's like a I don't know, like a reward for like all the hard work that they've done over the last few months. The specific um uh line of business, I guess is the term that they were in, was
Mhm.
IT and web development. So that's what their
Okay.
department did. So they did like all of the for all of the parks. They did like the website and the online store and shopdisney.com and like all that. That was them. They did the web development for that. So um yeah, they hired me to come in, pretend like I was like this. So like they were like, "Do you need a name tag?" I was like, "Don't worry, I already got a name tag." So I came in with my name tag, and at the time, I think I was still working for Disney actually too. I want to say I was still in attractions, so I had like my ID and everything with me, so it was very believable. And I've been to enough trainer meetings and enough uh, check-ins and what do they call roll call? There you go. That's the word for the word. I've been to enough roll calls that like I knew sort of how they went and the lingo and all of that stuff. So I came in, I introduced myself, I told them the line of business that I was in, which they told me to say. I don't remember what it was now. But basically, it was a coaching session to talk about, oh, we make magic, right? And as magic makers, this is what we do. And we're in web development, and the magic starts the moment they log into the website and all this stuff. And so I was like, as an icebreaker, I want to show you guys a magic trick because we make magic. So I thought it would be appropriate to do a little magic trick. And I did like, I'm not very good, but if I can, show you. And I did something along the lines of this, right? So I was like, I have like a little purse with some coins in here, right? And I think that I used quarters at the time. I didn't want to give it away that I was like a magician with my nice coins. But I was like, yeah, have you ever, these little quarters, right? And for you guys watching at home, actually, have you seen coins like this before? These are
Mm.
Walking Liberty half-dollar coins. These are 50-cent pieces from like the 1920s, 1930s. I think
Oh,
this one
nice.
is 1936, right? So these are old coins. But I have, a couple of these little coins. And the idea is very, very simple. I want to try to move the coins from this hand here to that hand there, but without you seeing it happen. right? That's the first one across. Now you can imagine the looks on their faces when I'm doing, they weren't expecting like an actual like proper magic trick, right? They were expecting like something silly. And I want to say I actually when I did this the first time I messed up on purpose, and they still clapped for me anyway. Right, because they
Oh,
were like, "Oh, bless his heart, he's doing a good job. He's trying," and I was like, "Can I try this one more time?" Right, so I made the second coin go across just like this, and then here, this is in slow motion so you guys can see. You ready? From one hand to the other. Of course,
wow.
it will jump back and back and back again. And that's just a little bit of magic with one, two, and three little coins. But yeah, so I did this little magic trick as a warm up, and it ramped up from being like a sort of silly little thing that didn't go right to being basically what I showed you, like professional sleight of hand. And they were like, "Whoa, that was really good." And I was like, I'm not an executive. I'm just here to do magic for you guys today. Let's have a good time. And then they brought out the food and everything. And yeah, it was like a 30-minute magic show just in their conference room that I did for them. So moral of that whole story, going back to your question, is as someone that is actually in that role, you can 100% use magic as like an icebreaker in a professional setting. It's fun. It gets people to relax. Because when you're in like a professional situation, and oftentimes if it's with subordinates that are in there, the tensions are high. Like everyone's like, "Oh, why are we here? What is this meeting about?" But if you can go in and you can just rest them assured, like, "Look, we're just going to have a good time today. Yeah, we're going to get to numbers and logistics and all that later, but let's do this little warm up exercise. Let's have a good time. Let's kind of lighten the mood. Let's break the ice." It's really good for that. And just learning magic anyway is a fun way to like break the ice with people. When I was younger, when I was in high school, I was that guy at the party that just stuck to the wall and waited for someone to want to start talking to me. I did not like going up to people and starting a conversation with them, right? But if I'm sitting here with a deck of cards and I'm looking around and I'm just like, hanging out with my cards and this and that and shuffling, someone eventually is going to be like, "Wait, do you play card games or do you do magic tricks?" "Oh yeah, I'm actually a magician. Want to see a trick?" Boom, the ice is broken. And now I can perform a magic trick. They're going to get excited. "By the way, my name is Michael. What's your name?" And boom, now we're having an interaction, we're having a conversation. So for people that maybe have high anxiety, learning a magic trick is a fun way to break the ice as well. So there's different ways outside of being a magician that you can definitely introduce magic into your life. Again, I have lots of students that do that. I have students that are grandparents that just want, whenever the grandkids come over, they want to be able to show them something fun. They want to be the cool grandparents that when the kids come over, they're excited because grandpa's going to show me a magic trick, right? So yeah, from all different walks of life. It's pretty cool.
That's fantastic. Hey, I like that. We're almost at an hour, which is great because that means we're learning something. Where the conversation's moving, and it's fantastic catching up with you. But now that we're closing it up, I want to hand the show over to you. Where can people find out more of your stuff, follow you, hire you, learn from you, purchase from you? Tell us all about the Mike ecosphere, and we'll close out the episode.
I decided that I wanted to make it as easy for everyone as possible, so I don't have 1,000 different handles you guys got to memorize. All you have to memorize is O'Brien Magic. Okay, so that's OBRIENMAGIC. That's my website, o'brienmagic.com. That's my YouTube channel at O'Brien Magic. That's my Instagram at O'Brien Magic. That's my Facebook, facebook.com/O'Brien Magic. I kept it really easy for you guys. So whatever platform you're on, just look up O'Brien Magic. And if I'm on that platform, feel free to add me. Feel free to follow me. Feel free to reach out and say hello. Let me know that you saw me here on the channel. And again, if you guys want to hire me, if you want to look into my products, or if you just want to use my YouTube channel as a resource, you can learn a bunch about magic on my channel. You can find all of that stuff on my website as well, brianmagic.com. So if you have some kind of fun event coming up and you want to discuss having me at your event, reach out. Let's have a conversation, and I hope to see you there.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining as part of our lineup of interviews with a pro. You're exactly what we're looking for. Bringing in the best from my Rolodex from across different industries where people wouldn't necessarily find world building, but I think you've shown that there is magic in world building. So thanks, Mike, and everyone. Follow him everywhere online. Fantastic guy, great dad and husband. He's just an overall good dude. And let's not forget, Jungle Cruise skippers, we're the best. Have a great
Once a
day.
skip, always
And
a skip.
what's a skip? We got to plug it. Um, so yeah, go out there and go build some worlds.